So, I am Lorraine. I am part of the ELSA group, and I work at the CISPA Center for Information Security in Germany, and I'm stepping in today for Professor Mario Fritz, who unfortunately can't last week for us today, but I'm very happy to be here today, as today is about AI education in Europe, and I'm grateful that we can be part of the conversation. Now, let's have a brief look at the agenda. So the session today has two parts. We are starting with a overview of the ELLIS PhD program. I just give you a quick rundown of the ELLIS Society and what role the networks play to support the program, and show you some figures and the vision of the program. And then and then I'm also very lucky to invite Tobias, my colleague, and he's actually an ELLIS PhD student, and he will give some first-hand insight in sharing the impact and the opportunities the program has to offer. And then in the second part, we're having a student panel. So firstly, I have to thank you, for stepping in last minute and moderating the panel, and also the panelists. We have featured voices from both the ELLIS PhD program, but also AIDA. So, the ELLIS Society. So the ELLIS Society was founded in 2018 with the overarching mission to attract and enable outstanding minds, and it had kind of two objectives that are creating regional ecosystems around leading AI research and also to bring European AI hotspots together. And how does ELLIS achieve these goals? It actually has structured initiatives, and one of them is the research programs. So ELLIS structures his fellows into 16 research programs which cover a wide range of research topics, from basic research in algorithms to applications in the field, for example, of health or climate science. Then there are the ELLIS sites. So ELLIS establishes a regional ecosystem around leading AI research, which serves on the one hand side as a magnet for international talent, but it also acts as an incubator for innovation. And there are currently 43 ELLIS sites which operate as a multi-centric AI lab. And then finally, there is the ELLIS PhD and Postdoc program, which we are focusing on today. So the program was initiated in 2020 with the mission to attract and nurture talent. And ever since, it has become a unique entry point to cutting-edge machine learning research for young researchers. And it's also designed in a way that it allows interdisciplinary collaborations as well as partnerships with industry labs. And that focuses on having 3 points. So on the one hand, excellence, so they're attracting top-tier researchers. Then there are effective mechanisms for collaboration in place. So we're building partnerships across countries and also disciplines. And of course, they're committed to creating real-world impact benefiting the society and the economy. And then on this slide, you see the timeline of ELLIS. That also shows you kind of how the NOEs come into the mix. So ELLIS started out in 2018 with an open letter, which kind of acted as grassroots movement. And with that letter, they called for support from politicians, and the AI community. And then that letter kind of set the stage for the formal establishment of the society. And that actually happened at Murex in 2018 in Montreal. And then the first major success happened in form of ELSA. So they did a joint proposal, and that was a really important milestone because it secured funding for the program and also allowed Tübingen to take on the role as general coordinator and also start central recruiting, and Amsterdam industry coordination. Then in 2021, ELSA joined. We are offering additional mobility funds, and we also extended the research areas with privacy, security, and robustness. And then in 2023, ELLIS started, which is kind of good timing as ELLIS is running out. So now they are adding sustainability to the mix, and they also introduced a third track, the interdisciplinary track, which I show you in a second. And they're also taking on now the role from Tübingen to cover the general coordination, which allows ELLIS to sustain the program and to ensure that it can keep growing and face future challenges. Now here you just quickly see the PhD postdoc committee. They are meeting monthly to ensure that matchmaking and the recruiting is fair. They oversee the program execution, and they also align with other ELLIS bodies, such as the ELLIS board, to maximize synergies. And they also develop a strategic agenda for attracting and supporting the next generation of AI research and leadership. Now, what vision drives the program? So they are having, as I said, overarching goal to attract and support young researchers in machine learning, and they do that by basically aiming to be a meta program on top of existing graduate programs. And that way they offer additional value for European collaborations between academic partners and industry leaders. And of course, the focus is on excellence, but then they also have this new system of having joint supervision, which then allows supervisors, and they are aiming to become one of the best brands in machine learning education. Now, what does this concretely look like? So they are focusing on attracting, training, mobilizing, connecting, and retaining talent globally. And how does this work? There's specific measures in place. So there's two ways how the recruiting can be run. So the first one is the center recruiting via joint call, which happens once a year. And then there's also the option for local decentralized recruiting via a nomination process. Then there's the joint supervision mentioned, and there's 3 tracks to choose from. So there's the academic track. So we have 2 students today who are doing the academic track, and then one student who does the industry track, and there's the 3rd interdisciplinary track. And this always involves that you have to stay a minimum of 6 months with your secondary advisor, and the academic track has changed abroad. And then the student experience includes events such as the ELLIS Symposium, which is a week-long event, which we hopefully hear later about as well in our panel discussion. Then there's a call for ELLIS units to submit proposals for summer schools. Students also profit from the unit and program events, and they are also having the option to organize their own events, which the program supports. Then they are offered mobility funds so that they can actually attend the events and also for their exchanges. And they profit from the community, which is embedded into ELSA. and that also offers them opportunities for professional growth as well and to really have an impact. Now here we have a few upcoming events. Christopher already showed them yesterday, so skip them. And most of these figures are also seen yesterday. So we currently, the program has 422 PhDs and postdocs. 25% of them are female. So that shows that ELLIS is pushing gender diversity. And there's 289 advisors, 18 which are from the industry track, more than 100 partners in 17 different countries. And then the map at the bottom left is actually quite interesting. It shows where these applications for the program come from. Since 2020, the program has roughly 80,000 applications from global students. Now, if you would like to know more about this, I am not the coordinator, so if you'd like to contact her, she's currently in Helsinki, but she has email address phd@ellis.eu. Her name is Charlotte. She's great. And then there's an option to go to the website, follow the newsletter, you found them on Twitter, Facebook, or the social media channels. Now to sum it up, how does the program make a difference? So they are a unique platform, and or they provide a unique platform that offers the opportunity to recruit global talent. Then they are raising the bar for excellence in Europe. They have effective mechanisms in place for deep collaboration in achieving real-world impact, joint projects, supervision, and ability between academia and industry partners, and they are establishing a global and pan-European ecosystem that benefits the society and the economy. And now I'm handing over to Tobias to share his experience.
Yes, thank you, and hello everyone. As Lorraine mentioned, I would like to share some of my experiences with the ELLIS PhD program. I started my PhD about 3 years ago, but really the journey towards a PhD has started a bit earlier in the summer of 2020, when I was looking at potential options on where to do my PhD. Back then I was studying at ETH in Zurich, I was doing my master thesis, and as a researcher or ongoing researcher in AI, there were many options on where to go, both in Europe as well as abroad. And it was honestly a bit overwhelming by how many potential advisors there were out there. So one of the sources I tapped for information and advice was a prior professor I had during my bachelor, who recommended to me to look at the ELLIS PhD program. The ELLIS PhD program back then was pretty new. They were just starting their first central recruiting call, so there was not much experience I could rely on from existing students. But by looking at the ELLIS network already back then, I saw that there was a network of researchers in Europe, and that there was a lot of momentum behind it and a lot of energy that made it clear that the network was built to last, also through and beyond the first funding round. So I ultimately decided to apply. And during this application process, there was already the first big advantage, which was the central recruiting system Lorraine mentioned. So instead of having to go through all the professors in Europe, which were working on the intersection between security and machine learning, which was the area I was very interested in, I could prepare one central application and set of documents and upload this to the central portal. But it still gave me the option to choose different professors, which I was particularly interested in working with, which meant that it didn't just go into the void into a big pool for everyone, but there was a method for me to indicate which potential advisors I would be interested in. Then after an initial filtering of the applications, there was a magic process where I got to interview with 3 different professors from my list of preferences. And again, the timeline of these interviews was synchronized. but the individual interviews were very free and up to the professor how they conduct them, which I found very positive, as I got to know how this particular professor likes to operate and how they basically interview their students. I also had a few interviews outside the network, but ultimately I decided to go with Mario Prince from CISPA for my PhD. Right after this interview process and then the confirmation that both sides agreed to proceed with the PhD, the second major feature of the PhD program came into play, which is the secondary advisor. And honestly, looking back over the past 3 years, having 2 different advisors, which are required to be from 2 different European countries, has many, many benefits. There's the obvious ones that both have very different backgrounds in research and also personal experience. And whenever we meet, there are usually more ideas in the room than we can possibly implement, which is a very positive thing. But then there's also the 6-month exchange, which is required by the program. And actually in the beginning, there's a written commitment by all parties that this exchange will happen, which is very helpful later on when the technical details and administrative processes have to be worked out. So my second advisor is Marta Kwiatkowska from the University of Oxford. And I recently spent 6 months with her group. And this exchange was honestly one of the highlights of my PhD. In so many aspects, I want to highlight a few. One is, of course, that I worked in a different country, at a different university with different people. So I got to know many researchers I would otherwise not have met. And also the environment of working was very different. My home institute, the CISPA Center in Saarbrücken, Saarland in Germany. It's a very young institute. Was founded only a few years before I started my PhD. And the atmosphere I often like to describe as like a startup, a research startup, which grows very fast, has high goals, great people to work with, but this energy of anything is possible and big places to go. On the other hand, the University of Oxford is one of the oldest institutes in the world. They have a history of almost 1,000 years of teaching and have been at the top, or one of the top research centers for the entire time, with generations of Nobel Prize winners and other great scholars. And this difference I really felt when being there. In Oxford, the entire suite with knowledge and scholarship, with century-old buildings, over 100 different libraries, and that also manifests itself in the approach to research. So I feel like in Oxford, the understanding of doing research was very much on a very intellectual level. It was almost like a battle of wits between colleagues, often trying to outdo each other, and by doing so, advancing your own horizon. On the other hand, at CISPA, it's a very familial atmosphere, which is focused on very much supporting each other and growing fast together. And I think both approaches have their strengths and also limitations. And going forward, being able to apply both of them whenever necessary will definitely help me. The ELLIS program was very much key in facilitating this exchange. As I mentioned earlier, the written requirement was very helpful when talking to administration and trying to figure out this path of how to make both institutes happy, especially since it was a relatively new program and many things had to be figured out. But also the legal framework ELLIS gave this thing was very helpful. For example, there were some issues and debates on the intellectual property rights of my time in Oxford, and ELLIS framework, which all institutes were a part of, helped resolve that. And then, of course, the financial aspect is also helpful in supplementing travel costs. The third aspect which I would like to highlight of the ELLIS PhD program is the many events within the network. There are many talks and summer schools and workshops on different topics, but the one that's especially dear to me is the AIDA Symposium, which is a doctoral symposium organized by students from the network or other students from the network, and has been so far organized every year. The first iteration started in late summer of 2021, so in the midst of Corona restrictions and lockdowns. And the idea of a few students from Tübingen was that all the major conferences were remote, even working was mostly remote, and everywhere were restrictions and lockdowns. And so the idea was to give new students an opportunity to meet other like-minded people, and to give them a chance to network and to experience this support that other people has that is going towards the same goal. There was a great mix between poster presentations to different topics by students, tooling sessions where more experienced students could share their approach to research and how to manage the flood of papers that comes to archive every day, but also talks at the cutting edge of research from scholars of the network, combined with some social networking events, which were also very great to participate. And to this day, whenever I go to one of the huge machine learning conferences, I meet people from these summer school or these symposiums, which is very nice in this otherwise anonymousness. The doctoral symposium has since been organized every year in a different ELLIS unit. For example, the second one was in Alicante, where Aditya was part of the organizing committee. Last year it was in Helsinki, and this year it's going to be in Paris, which I'm very much looking forward to. So in conclusion, I can honestly say that the ELLIS PhD program has significantly enhanced my PhD experience. I'm very thankful to be part of this network and to everyone who initiated and supported it. And I think it is a great way to bring people together from the many different backgrounds and countries we have in Europe. And in my international experience, having so many people with different backgrounds looking at problems from different perspectives is a very unique quality, which this ELLIS network is very helpful in facilitating. Thank you.
Making some space. And I can get to.
So thank you, Lorraine. And so let's start with the second part of this session. So first of all, I probably would like to introduce a bit students. So we have two students that are more involved in the AIDA experience and two one of the ELSA experience. So maybe we can start from the AIDA student, then of course we can go all together in the discussion. So let me briefly presented a short biography of the two AIDA students. So Evangelos here, of course, you can add, but just a brief introduction. So Evangelos is a graduate at the Department of Study University, and he has a degree in computational intelligence, and actually he is now a PhD student under the Traditional Special Research. And so for what I can read here, you are interested in automated video visualization, adversarial machine learning, and the intersection with reason language computation. And then we have also here Ioanna. So Ioanna Valsamara is a PhD student here. again, I think with Professor Vitas, yeah. And so for what I can understand here, your interest are in deep learning for computer vision, knowledge assessment using deep neural network, and the knowledge diffusion of the agent framework. So, I don't know if you want to
No, that's enough for now.
Okay. So maybe we can start since both of you are students in the AIDA program. So maybe you can say something about your experience with the AIDA. Oh.
Okay, I can start.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. For me. So, having heard everything for the ELLIS program, so AIDA, to me, is more of a support system to my PhD. What I mean by that is that the main course of my PhD, my research is not almost, is actually independent from the AIDA courses and syllabus, but I do have the chance to find some resources that are normally inaccessible to me. What do I mean by that? Many professors around the world, around Europe, I think, maybe around the world too, do offer courses in AIDA that are only accessible through their graduate or undergraduate programs. So, in any other scenario that I wasn't an AIDA student, I wouldn't have access to them. So it's a great support system for very specific courses that are similar to my research interests. That's what I can find in AIDA that I cannot find in other, I don't know, course frameworks like paid ones, etc. That's the main thing. It's a great support system for very specific research resources.
So did you find courses that are
Yeah, I have done. I think I've done like 4 or 5 of them that are on the postgraduate level. For example, the last one that I did is on diffusion networks that are state of the art in generative AI right now. So I did have 2 choices. I either look into free resources such as, I don't know, open courseware from MIT or YouTube, that many of these courses are actually out there, or check into AIDA, see first of all the professors that are offering those courses, look into them, look at the research, look at their, I don't know, even their book scholars, check what they've done on this specific task, and choose from that. So I've done many courses, and one other thing that I really like is that they're long courses. It's not like 1 or 2 hour seminars. They're courses like 8, 16 hours, even more, that I do asynchronously, and they go and supplement my PhD studies really well.
So maybe we will also know which are the way that you can think can be useful to improve this
To improve the
platform.
You mean the interface between the student and the platform, or in general?
In general.
I think a nice improvement would be like a better grouping of courses, because since the courses are really specialized, the subjects, some are state of the art, some are other general subjects that include state of the art, but include also all the research. I think that the grouping of courses and the, how can I say it, a friendly user interface to go into, let's say, a tree, start from a general category and go down to frequencies. I think it would be really useful for me, because many times I spend more time than I'd like to look for the specific thing that I'm looking for here.
So maybe also having like a hierarchy about the level of the tool.
Yeah, maybe that would be really useful to undergraduate, postgraduate, industry maybe.
Yeah, more oriented.
Yeah.
Yeah. You, Ioanna, want to after that.
The first question.
So,
So I'm kind of new in my PhD. I started around 1 year ago and some months. So for me at least, the experience of starting PhD was a bit complicated because the range of the research and the new technologies, say the art method, it's quite large. So I think that when I started, AIDA helped me a lot to define what is currently novel and what are courses that I should participate in as a PhD level student. Because normally when you are a master or first degree, it's not so specific. The domains that you should excel in and try to make a contribution are not that specific. So when I started my PhD, I wanted to find out more specific courses and what I should learn and what my subject interest should be. And I think that found that in AIDA because the courses are paid to level in most cases. So that was good for me to start. Now, about the platform and if there is a moderation from my part that I would suggest, there is always the case that there could be added more courses or more resources. And I also agree with Evangelos about the taxonomy of the courses. Yes, because that would be helpful for any user that gets in the platform.
Yeah, that's good. That's just. I'm also curious about because this morning there was an interesting section about discussed the other morning about how much courses are useful for these students, so if they should attend the courses and the pass exams or maybe not. So I would like to know your opinion about that. So
about the general usefulness of courses for PhD students.
The AIDA is proposing courses. So
So I think that in my opinion, I let Ioanna speak for himself. In my opinion, my PhD studies come in phases. So there are some phases that I have to just put in papers, just get into GitHub, download some code, work on it, experiment. But if at some point, for example, I have some experiments that I have to wait. This is a really great period of time for me to learn new things or enhance my knowledge with newer things. And AIDA has helped me a lot in that. Maybe courses are not that useful in our CV, like after finishing a PhD, I think in a company or in another research center, when you are interviewing, the main thing that we will be asked are not some courses that you can pass in AIDA or in anywhere else, but mainly for your PhD study or research. So in the CV, I don't know if I believe that it's that much important not having them, but for my personal knowledge, it helps, not horizon CV, especially if the course is offered by a professor that it's a really high published expert on food. Of course, I would hear something that I would never imagine myself. And that's what PhD is about. So I think that AIDA is that part of the PhD studies really was for me.
Yes.
Thank you.
In my opinion, courses are important. Don't just get the information like reading book or reading paper. You get the communicate with the teacher or the other students that also focus on the same class and get inspiration or new ideas, or you can get plus the questions you want to get specific answers. So I know that in PhD level you can take all the courses you want to absorb all this information, but the more you can handle, I think that it's better for your knowledge levels.
Yeah. So Thank you, thank you. So do you think, for example, for AIDA it's possible to release the certificate of course attendance? So do you think, but in some way, Evangelos will be.
I already answered that, yes.
Because you think that it's not so.
I don't think that it holds the weight of a master's degree or course of a PhD. I don't think they're useless. Maybe they show that when existing in a CV that the person that is interviewing or the person that will his or her CV has a lot of interests, looking for resources, but I think that's the limit of the weight that this certificate holds. It mainly shows interest and I don't know, maybe eagerness to learn and learn.
And what do you think about the exams at the end of the course?
Oh, I think exams are useful because there will be no moderation in who gets those certificates. I think all the courses should have a type of exam because let's not kid ourselves. It's really easy just to open a course, let it play for 8 hours, and if there is no exam at the end, you have learned nothing. You just get a certificate with a line. So I think that all the lecturers that offer courses should have, I don't know the difficulty, but a type of exam. Maybe multiple choice. Really trivial, something really trivial. But again, the way that this certificate holds is specific for me.
I think that the good thing about the certificates is that they show that there is a mobility, I guess, in your PhD studies and the fact that yes, it means to learn more and to get in touch with different domains and technologies and aspects of your science, like AI. And, so I think they are important with that aspect. About the exams, I think that the practical solution is to get an exam at the end of the course. But since we're talking about PhD students, I think that it's in their hands if they want to learn or not to learn in the end. Because it's about our personal benefits.
That should be closed for master students.
Yeah.
Thank you very much because that is the running actually.
So
maybe we can can share with the answer first. Some of the questions for you. So maybe I can introduce very quickly because you already have very long PhD. So congratulations. So let me introduce Aditya, that has a master in computer science engineering, and now is an ELLIS student at the University of Alicante. So with the advisors are Dr. Muriel Oliver, and Dr. Bruno Lelli. So for what I can see here, your interest is in human computers and their impact on artificial intelligence systems. And I also see that you already organized an ELLIS reading group and the doctoral volume in 2022. Then we have Tobias. So actually you already introduced yourself before, but anyway, Tobias is a student at the ELMO Center for Information Security in Germany. Yes. Under the supervision of Professor Fritz and Martha Wolter, more or less. Yes. And so I see that you already published, because you are a senior student, so you already published a very good paper in top ranked content like ICML and CD. And you also have standing reviewer award from Aditya. Then last, of course, not on the list, Karsten. Karsten is an ELLIS PhD student at the University of Tübingen, the AI Center, under the supervision of Professor Zeynep Akata and Prof. Oriel Cunyalis. For your case, you are shared between the university and Google. And so I see you have many experience also working with the Joshua Benjamin, Montreal, and several other places at Meta and the Amazon. And so I see that your interests are in factor representation learning and different forms of distributed shift, including error shot, shot, and so on. Okay.
Yeah, pretty well. Yeah.
Thank you. So, so about that is, I think, first of all, it can be maybe interesting to understand, of course, from all of you, how you know about this program and why you decided to apply. Probably just to say something, or maybe.
Yes, for me it was a former professor who recommended it. Yeah, and I looked into it.
In my case, same story, word of mouth. Someone suggested me to look into it. It ended up being really interesting and forming the last 4 years of my life. So, very good suggestion.
Yeah, I mean, as well, I just heard about it from someone else. I think also we all applied, I guess, in the first year for like the first form. So I guess it also wasn't that popular enough. So I was looking for some professors in Europe, and then I found one person suggested maybe we can get ELLIS. And that's when it was quite nice because then you sort of have a central platform where you can see everyone on this. Yeah, so it was really almost by chance that I found out about ELLIS. It ended up being nice.
So, in your opinion, which is the most important part for you? I mean, probably this possibility to match your interest with the research topic of year 5. So,
I mean, the program itself is very European in its core, right? You have supervisors from countries that, I mean, obviously depending on the individuals there, but generally work close together. So in my case, one of the key premises and one of the big selling point was that I get to continuously work with both throughout the whole PhD and get kind of multiple perspectives on research and live around research. And it's just very, very unique setup. And ELLIS provides kind of very formal entry point into this supervision setup, which I think is pretty much unique in the world. And I'm happy to be part of it.
But again, you find a good match between your expectation and but for what I know, you are like ranking and then you.
Yeah. I mean, the great thing is you get to select a lot of different people you are interested in working with. Like a lot of them obviously don't know in person. And so you get to talk to them during the process, have chats with a lot of different people. And at the end, ideally, you kind of distill out the perfect setup that works for you. Assuming hopefully that kind of both parties agree. And in my case, it's been pretty much exactly what I was wanting to get out of it, which is essentially kind of a joint collaborative PhD setup that involves 2 different countries, 2 different supervisors, and the exchange is kind of just the cherry on top.
No, it's also really helpful because for me, I also worked on like quite a small setup in Alicante. We just started out in 2021, and then also combine that with stay at a bigger research lab. Then you also get to see the differences between what it's like working like a very small setup versus a more established setup. And also, I mean, what I really like with the ELLIS thing, with the ELLIS network, is that you're basically choosing primarily based on what you're very interested in. So you're picking locations based on your research interests. So then, yeah, for me, I'm pretty happy with the supervisor that I have, the work that I'm doing. And yeah, ELLIS just sort of providing a great work for me to do all of that. So nice.
Yeah, maybe about the actual matching process. Yeah, it was very interesting for me because when I applied, I chose many, I think we could choose up to 10 professors we wanted to work with. But Mario Kurtz, my current advisor, was actually not on the list because he just joined the program like a week before the application ended. And despite me not being able to choose him, he was able to choose me in the application process, and we still got a chance to talk and meet. And it actually ended up being the best match. So I don't know how this happened internally, these rankings and these matchings, but it ended up working out very well.
So maybe Aditya can comment something more about your experience organizing such event that was.
Yeah, I mean, yes, that was again quite a dense experience, and I don't think it's possible to get that in most PhDs. So I was quite excited to do it because it ended up being this very big event with 200 people attending. A part of so big that I was quite scared of my stuff. Yeah, so we also ended up working with, there were like 10 of us primarily working on organizing the event. So also coordinating between all these different people and then learning to also be able to deal with different people having different ideas about how things should go. And just sort of bringing all of that together and trying to make sure you end up with a nice event that's actually beneficial for everyone. It's quite challenging. And you end up learning quite a bit. So I mean, these are skills which I think are very useful to have, but again, not very normal to be exposed to in a PhD. So I did quite enjoy doing it, but at the same time, it's also very time-consuming experience. Yeah, and I spent a good part of the first year doing all of this, which I quite enjoyed as well. I mean, it let me see a completely different side of things because until then I was also just a master's student. It was like you're really being thrown into the deep end and figuring out what the real world looks like. It's not so nice. But no, so it was definitely a worthwhile experience, all things considered. But yeah, but yeah, I mean, overall, I'd say I probably think twice if I sign up to do it again.
So which are related to this, maybe which are the main challenges that you encountered in your PhD?
Generally boils a lot down to individual drive to do stuff. Unlike previous stages, there is rarely anyone that can really hold your hand and can really guide you to where you want to go. Generally, obviously, you get recommendations which are potentially interesting areas or areas where you get some help, but a lot of it just boils down to your own research, getting into a topic, trying to figure out if this is worth spending and putting in months of your own time researching into it. And so it's in general like a PhD is something that you have to really prepare for and be ready to just spend a lot of time on your own working out the things. But then obviously once you get into it, which this is the hard part, you get to be part of especially in Europe, part of a really big academic network. And as soon as you have worked your way into a specific field, a lot of other people, a lot of other like-minded people, you can collaborate. And I think this is the point where the PhD can then really start to actually be fun. And this pretty much has been my experience, getting into a topic, figuring out what I like about this, connecting with people, and enjoying research.
Yes,
It was really nice book. I totally agree. I totally agree. We are a bit earlier in our studies than the guys. So I just finished my second year. So I'm just at that point now that I have a task. I know a lot about it. I'm not an expert yet by any means, but now it's starting to get fun. I start reading papers and getting new ideas from the paper, whereas in the previous years, the previous months, let's say, I was just reading and believing whatever I saw written and say, okay, that's all correct. And now I'm starting to see whole problems, new motivation. That's the point that I'm at right now, and it's really fun to get.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's like a slightly different, or same base problem, but slightly different area. That once you are researching on a topic and get to a roadblock, the question of how or is it worth existing, for how long is it worth persisting, or maybe there is a solution, and looking in a different area, finding the right trade-off there, I think, is really hard. So, I don't know, university, so has been before, so you always knew there was a problem. Now you don't know, or don't know if that's a feasible one. So figuring out when to stop actually working on a thing and when it's maybe time to move on will also be still a part of the challenges.
It also only have to kind of a two-sided thing, because you don't even know, like, you don't know if there's a solution, but you don't even know if the problem is relevant. And so you have two things to kind of worry about. One, finding a solution, and two, figuring out if it's the problem that people actually care about. And so especially now, like, machine learning research has super accelerated, and the time frame you have to work on topics and even on problems is much shorter. And so you have to do all of this in a much shorter time with significantly more competition. And so I know a lot of other PhD students, like, right now, like the last year and a half, has made things a lot more stressful, because it is this whole, like, large amount of uncertainty switched into a short time frame over and over again with, like, a lot of competition. But on the other hand, you get to work now on something that has kind of a proven practical track record, and so you have to kind of survive the different students.
So maybe we are with the end of the session, maybe as a last point, discuss which are your aspirations for future career.
No idea.
It's a good question. I mean, machine learning is in a very unique position where academic research is very closely connected to what people care about and apply in industry. And so it essentially boils down to the question, do you want to stick to academia, or do you want to go down the industrial path? And these things are merging more and more closer together, which for one, and in my case, I think makes things a bit easier, because if you care about research, you care about life as part of a bigger company. There are now actually ways, and quite a lot of them actually, to do this, do research at a company or work at a university in collaboration with industry. And so for me, I think that would be the track I am most interested in. Research by whatever means, pretty much, with practical relevance.
I guess the nice thing about the industry is also that you can also really apply a lot, considering you can actually see value very easily. But at the same time, I guess, so I've never worked in the industry, but I've been told that it gets very restrictive, because at the end of the day, your research needs to be aligned with the company's values, but what they're trying to make profit off of. So if you're not the person working in the same problems, then the industry maybe is not the best fit. But then the nicest thing would be to find a company that's invested with the same problem. So then I guess you find like a nice middle ground there. So, but to answer your actual question, first one is like, I really have no idea what comes out of the PhD. But
It's too big of a part in our lives. You don't know what comes next.
yeah,
We have to tackle this first and then think about it.
I guess the summary is research.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Our panelists really to think that how can be relevant can be to even better, I don't know.
I think some support for the individual ELLIS partners in how to do the administrative part, especially with these exchanges, because in my experience, that's the biggest problem. Not the funding, not the willingness of the advisors, but actually technically the legal pretty much do this. I would imagine that the challenges and solutions are similar across institutes. But from my experience, there's not a lot of exchange between like the administrative part of the institutions on how I think it would really help to have like some sort of, I don't know, either person or some meeting about results or even just a knowledge base on talk to and how to
some feedback about how to grow it with all this initiative AIDA.
absolutely.
I think we are more or less at the end. I don't know. Probably we will see that last week. So probably we can thank the student, and of course I would like to wish you all the best of your research and professional career. And thank you very much. I don't know if Lorraine want to add something.
I just think this is super interesting. Thank you for joining. I'm glad also that today, as it is for AI education, that we have the opportunity to invite some students.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.